Picture this, it's 3 a.m. Your room is stupidly dark. You're lying there, wide awake, and your brain whispers, "Hey, what if there's something under the bed? Not a person, not a raccoon. Something that doesn't even have a shape your mind is willing to finish rendering." Most normal humans, they turn on the light, go get water, check their phone until the existential dread gets bored and leaves. Junji Ito, he grabs a pencil and starts drawing whatever the hell that thing is. That's Junji Ito, the most unsettling manga artist on the planet. Not because he's trying to scare you on purpose. Because when you look at his stuff, you get this weird, nameless feeling. Not pure fear, not straight disgust, something in the middle that makes your skin feel too tight. We're calling it the shudder of recognition. That moment when the horror on the page looks at you and goes, "Oh hey, I know you." Today we're not talking about the monsters, we're talking about the extremely normal guy who keeps making them. 1963, rural Gifu, Japan. Little Junji is growing up in a house where his big sisters read him actual horror stories from adult magazines. Not the friendly ghost who just wants a friend stuff. Proper thick, sticky Japanese folklore horror where the monsters don't even attack you. They just stand in the corner, existing, judging. He listened, he remembered, and then he drew. He wasn't some child prodigy the neighbors bragged about. He was just a quiet kid who couldn't not draw. His biggest early influence was Kazuo Umezu, the godfather of horror manga, the guy who made the drifting classroom. Ito studied those pages like a normal artist studies the Renaissance. Heavy cross-hatching, obsessive detail, every line feels like it has weight. During the day he worked as a dental technician. 8 hours of tiny, precise, fiddly hand work. If you ever looked at his art and thought, why does this skin texture feel so uncomfortably real? Congratulations, you just found the connection. He was literally practicing tiny detail work on teeth all day and then going home to draw people whose bodies were doing things teeth should never do. Nights, drawing. No guarantee anyone would ever see it. 1987, he's 23, sends his first story to monthly Halloween magazine, gets an honorable mention in the Kazuo Umezu Award. Yes, the actual Umezu was on the jury. They published it. The story was called Tomie, and that's how a guy who spent his days fixing smiles started making art that makes people grind their teeth in their sleep. Tomie isn't just his debut, it's basically his mission statement wearing a pretty girl's face. Tomie is a beautiful high school girl who cannot be killed, stabbed, burned, buried. She just comes back, whole, gorgeous, completely unbothered. Sometimes a single piece of her flesh grows into an entirely new Tomie. They don't even seem excited about existing, they just do. Ito has said it's about obsession, how people destroy themselves chasing something that will never love them back.
Tomie. 君は美しい。どうしてそんなに美しいの？
私を好きになった男の人はみんな私を殺してバラバラにしようとするのよ。
できた。ついにかけた君の美しさを。これは僕の最高傑作だ。
何よそれ。
Tomie isn't evil. She's an empty hole that people keep throwing their entire personalities into. That's his whole trick. There's always a second layer. Uzumaki's spiral isn't really about spirals. It's about an entire town slowly losing its collective mind and being completely unable to stop even after everyone realizes something is deeply wrong. It's group insanity, the kind where the environment rewires your brain before you notice. Go isn't about fish on robot legs. Even though, yes, there are fish on robot legs. It's about the smell of death getting out and staying out. That one story about hair, it's about something intimate and personal turning into a very public, very humiliating nightmare that everyone can see.
主人公、ちえみという女性はですね、彼氏に気に入られたいがためにですね、彼氏の言いなりになって、髪の毛も長く伸ばし始めたりとか、なんかタバコも吸い始めちゃったりとかですね、そういった悲しい女性という感じで描かれてますので。
He does body horror like nobody else in manga. The body isn't a container, it's the main character. It twists, unfolds, becomes something that should not exist. But it still feels human, uncomfortably human. Take something completely ordinary, a face, a house, a road, a bathroom sink, and show how it could become unbearable. That's the Ito method. He explains it simply, I draw what scares me, which is both the most wholesome and most concerning artist statement possible. Like if your therapist said, instead of talking about it, I'm going to draw it in extreme detail and sell it to strangers. Here's the part that breaks people's brains. Junji Ito still draws by hand, with ink, on paper. Every page takes hours. Every line is intentional. Look at any panel up close. Every pore, every hair, every fold of clothing. He doesn't leave empty space, because empty space lets your brain start filling things in. And your brain is way better at scaring you than he is. The faces in his stories work like documents. You can read the entire story of what happened to that person just from how their eyes and mouth are drawn. No dialogue required. Ideas come from everywhere. Dreams, he keeps notes. Real news stories, he says the newspaper often beats pure imagination. One story started because he stared at the bathroom sink for too long. His real talent isn't drawing scary things. It's seeing something completely normal and then refusing to look away until it becomes terrifying. If you're expecting Junji Ito to be a brooding hermit who lives in a dark house and only talks to cats, you're actually pretty close, except for the brooding part. His wife, Ayako Ishiguro, is an artist who draws yokai and cats. Their house is full of cats. He posts cute cat photos like a regular person. He even made a wholesome comic about two of his cats called Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yon and Mu. It's genuinely sweet and funny. Same hands, same brain. The man who draws people mutating into grotesque creatures also draws cats being dramatic about food. In interviews, he's soft-spoken, a little shy. He'll talk about food, travel, his love of 1970s Italian horror movies. And then he goes back to drawing things that make you question whether your own body is trustworthy. When people ask where the darkness comes from, he doesn't give them a tragic origin story. He says something like, I just wonder what happens if I go a little further in this direction, and then a little further than that. He's basically a scientist who experiments on what if things get worse until most people would have noped out. While working on Uzumaki, he admitted he started seeing spirals everywhere, in food, wood grain, clouds. It started to mess with him. He kept going away, because the discomfort was the point. A journalist once asked, aren't you ever scared of your own drawings? He thought about it and said, sometimes, but that's probably a good sign. Means I did it right. Meanwhile, the rest of us are scared of our own search history after 2 a.m. These days, you don't even have to read manga to know Junji Ito's name. Netflix made an anthology. His art is on tattoos, posters, clothing collabs. His characters' faces became memes, which is somehow the most unhinged possible legacy for body horror. He changed how a lot of Western people think about Japanese horror. Before Ito blew up over here, the stereotype was long wet hair plus creepy phone call. After, it's this whole artistic philosophy about fear that doesn't need to explain itself or give you a satisfying ending. Hideo Kojima wanted him for Silent Hills. The project died, but the fact that Kojima called the body horror guy when he wanted to make the scariest game of his life, that tells you something. So why are people still obsessed with him in 2020s? Because his horror doesn't play fair. The monsters don't have neat origin stories you can fix. The characters rarely win by understanding the threat and destroying it. Endings are rarely comforting. It's honest in a way that feels rude. Real nightmares don't end with a hero blowing up the source of the evil and then getting therapy. Junji Ito draws fear the way it actually feels, no comfort included, and a shocking number of people recognize that version. He's a peaceful man who adores his cats and still created some of the most skin-crawling images in visual art history. Maybe that's the real horror, but that one of the people best at drawing them is just a guy. A guy who looks a lot like the rest of us. A guy who simply never decided to stop walking deeper into the dark.